Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jonathan here. So, most of you have probably heard about Dave Ramsey before, but if you haven't, Dave Ramsey is a very popular radio talk show host who discusses personal finance. And most of his background in personal finance actually comes through a personal life experience he went through. So when he was in his 20s, he was a real estate investor, mostly doing flips. And essentially in the 80s, there was a tax law change that the then president Ronald Reagan had passed. And basically it caused the values of real estate to plummet overnight. And Dave Ramsey was in a position where he was over leveraged on short-term debt. And this eventually ended up causing him to have to file for bankruptcy. So ever since he started his company, Ramsey Solutions, he's been a very big advocate of people living a debt-free life. For me, there's some things that Dave Ramsey preaches that I do agree with, but there's a lot of things that he does that I do not agree with. So in this video, I'm going to discuss some of the aspects that I agree with Dave on in terms of personal finances, and some of them that I don't agree on, and give you some detail on it. So let's start off with some of the things that me and Dave Ramsey do agree on when it comes to personal finance. So the first thing that I agree with Dave is that you should pay off all bad debt. And just to make it clear, I said bad debt, not all debt. I do believe that if you have any high interest debt, any debt that's over, I would say 5%, you should make a very concerted effort to try to pay off that debt as quickly as possible. And this may mean that you might have to take out a second job. You might have to cut down on some of your expenses. You might have to put that vacation on hold. You might need to stop eating out altogether. You need to do whatever you can to get out of this debt, because this debt can be very crushing and it could really make it very difficult for you to build wealth and save money and set yourself up into a better financial position later on in life. Also, while you're paying off this kind of debt, you should also do whatever you can to avoid getting into this kind of debt again. Another thing that me and Dave agree on is that you should have a budget in place. And I've made multiple videos where I've talked about budgeting and making a budget, but basically the reason why you need to make a budget is because you need to know where your money is going, and you need to know how much money you can save every single time you get paid. And when you have a budget, it makes it a lot easier to track your expenses, which is something else that me and Dave agree on as well. By tracking your expenses, you start to realize that there's certain things you spend money on that you don't need to, which can actually help you save more money, which when you save more money, you can now invest more money. And when you invest more money, you can now build wealth even quicker. Another thing that me and Dave agree on is that you should save for retirement. I am very big on every extra dollar that I have, that I put it towards my saving for retirement. And also, saving for retirement is very important, especially when you're younger in life. For example, if you invest $1 at 7% rate of return, starting when you're 20, all the way to the age of 65, that $1 will turn into $21. Whereas if you had started this 10 years later at the age of 30 and you invest that $1 till the age of 65, you end up with about $10.50 by the time you're 65. So you almost lost half of your returns just because you waited 10 years to start investing. Not only saving for retirement, but saving for retirement as quickly as possible is extremely important. The last thing that me and Dave agree on is that you should give. And giving is very important. Now, there's a lot of things that me and Dave don't agree on. And if I had made a list of things that we don't agree on, we could be here forever. But I'll just keep it very short to the main points. So the first thing that me and Dave don't agree on is that Dave believes that you should save an emergency fund in a savings account. I'll probably make a video going into more detail about this later. I'm a big believer in that your emergency fund should be in the markets in some aspect. And the main reason for this is that when money is in a savings account or in a checkings account, you're a lot more likely to spend that money. And also, that money is usually losing value over time due to inflation. Another thing that me and Dave disagree on is to pay off all debt. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, I do believe that you should pay off all bad debt. So all debt that's above a 5% interest rate, you should make a very concerted effort to make sure you pay that off as quickly as possible. But any debt that you have that's like 4% or less, this can include student loans, mortgages, sometimes car loans. Those loans, it may not make sense for you to try to make an effort to pay those off as quickly as possible. And it might be better to use the extra funds that you would use to pay off those loans quicker and invest in the stock market or into real estate or maybe even into your own business. Another thing that me and Dave don't agree on is saving for retirement using a 401k or a Roth IRA. So like I said at the beginning of this video, I do agree that you should save for retirement. But you can save for retirement without using a 401k or a Roth IRA. In my opinion, real estate is the ultimate investment. And for me personally, I would much rather use real estate to retire than a 401k or a Roth IRA. And the reason why is because if you invest in real estate correctly, you can actually not pay taxes on any of the money that you make in real estate. The government incentivizes buying real estate so much, and there's so many different write-offs you get for owning real estate that makes it very easy for you to get a tax-free return. To be clear, I do have a 401k and I do get an employer's match. So for me, I actually do put in 5% into my 401k so I get my full employer's match. But I don't put in anything more than that. And the reason why I do that is because I would much rather focus my money towards buying more real estate and controlling more real estate rather than putting it into a 401k. And this is also leads me to another thing that me and Dave disagree on, which is not using debt to buy investment real estate. So if you ever hear any of his calls, or if you ever heard anyone call into his show who had asked about taking out debt to buy real estate, you probably heard him respond and say you should only buy investment properties in cash. And in my opinion, that's a huge no-no. Because when you buy real estate in cash, what ends up happening is you lose a lot of the tax advantages that you get from investing in real estate. And especially if you're a younger investor who doesn't have a whole lot of capital and doesn't control a whole lot of real estate, this could be a very bad way of going about investing in real estate, because a lot of those tax benefits actually give you more money now so you can control more real estate immediately. Because with real estate, the real benefit you get is time. When you control real estate and you give it time to appreciate, that's really where you make the bulk of the money in real estate. So it's always better that you control immediately and you hold for a long time, rather than saving, then controlling real estate. Like the very popular statement says, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. Another thing that me and Dave don't agree on is saving for college using a 529 account. So for those of you who don't know what a 529 account is, basically it's a way that allows you to save up money for college tax-free, almost like a 401k. But instead of using those expenses for retirement, you'd use them for college expenses. I do believe that you should save for children's college, but I don't think that the 529 account is the best. And the reason why is because if you save up for your child's college education using a 529 account and they decide not to go to school, basically you're almost left holding the bag, because your choices are to either transfer it to a different family member or to withdraw the money. But at that point, you'll have to pay not only taxes on the money that you withdrew, but you'll also have to pay a 10% penalty on top of for all the gains that you realized in that account as well. And also another problem with the 529 accounts as well is that there's a very good chance that college could be cheaper in 20 years. Given the skyrocketing price of college right now and how unpopular going to college is slowly starting to become, I could see in 20 years that college may not be as expensive as it is today. And I think that instead of using a 529 account to save up for your child's college expenses, that you may be better off doing that through real estate. Again, for the tax benefits and the different benefits that real estate provides to you. I think when you save for your child's college fund through a 529 account, you're almost kind of not maximizing the use of that money, and you're putting your children in front of your own future. I'm not a parent myself, but I can understand the ideal that you would want to make sure your child is set up for their future. But you have to also be careful that you're also setting yourself up for your own future as well. Because the last thing you want to do is put your kids in a position where they have to now almost subsidize you in retirement because you decided to put them first. So yes, help your children, but don't do it at the cost of your own future. Another thing that me and Dave disagree on is paying off your home early. And this comes down to the fact that usually home mortgages are usually very low interest. With the low interest loan, I believe that you're better off investing in either stocks, real estate, or your own company where you could get a much higher return versus paying off your home early. And then the next thing that me and Dave disagree on is that Dave believes that you should never have credit cards throughout your entire life. And I disagree with this for a couple of reasons. The number one reason is that a credit card is probably the easiest way to build your credit. And if you don't have good credit, it's very hard to get prime rates on mortgages. In some cases, it could be difficult to even get a job. There's some employers that do run credit scores when considering applicants. It can be very hard to get a loan on a car. Pretty much to get any kind of loan, it's almost impossible to do it without credit. And one of the easiest ways to build credit is through the responsible use of a credit card. The other thing about not using a credit card that is problematic, that there's a lot of credit cards out there that will give you rewards points for just buying stuff that you would normally buy anyways using the credit card. For example, let's say you have a household, and let's say in your household you spend $50,000 every year. You spend $50,000 every year on your debit card. Well, if you had a credit card that was getting you 2% cash back on everything, that's $50,000 of spending could be an extra $500 in your pocket every year. As long as you pay off the card every month and you don't incur an interest charge, that $500 is yours to keep. And that doesn't even include the sign-up bonuses that you usually get from signing up for a credit card, which those can also have pretty significant value too as well. Those sign-up bonuses could be worth anywhere from $100 all the way up to $1,000, if not more, dollars. So in my opinion, I think that Dave Ramsey's advice is very great for the average American, for somebody who doesn't really care about personal finance, who has a really hard time tracking their money, who's very casual with finances, somebody who doesn't want to really get into the weeds of personal finance, who doesn't really want to learn too much about investing, then it may be very smart to actually follow his guidance. But on the other hand, if you're somebody who's very active in personal finance and you're constantly researching different tax strategies, and you understand the concept of leveraging, and you manage your money, and you track your expenses and all of that, I don't think Dave Ramsey's advice is the best advice for you to build wealth. Dave Ramsey's advice isn't all bad. Actually, I think it's very wise, especially for somebody who doesn't know much about personal finance. I think his system, his baby step system, is very good for somebody who just wants a very simple way to manage their finances. But if you are somebody who's out there who wants to build a lot of wealth and wants to do it in a very timely manner, I don't think his advice is the best. And I'm not trying to say that Dave Ramsey is a bad person to listen to. It's just that every person out there has their own goals about where they want to go financially and how quickly they want to get there and how much risk they're willing to take to get there. And I think it's very important that you understand your goals and your risk tolerance so you can take the best path forward to building wealth. And that's the thing about personal finance, is that it's personal and you have to do what is best for your situation and your risk tolerance. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button down below. It greatly helps out the channel and helps push this video out to new audiences. If you enjoyed my perspective and the way I explain things, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button down below. Also, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. I try to post there every day. And thank you for watching. Until next time.